All right, so I just wanted to do a quick recap of the evening. It's Wednesday. I mean, as you can see, it's bloomsday. It's Ulysses Day, so what the hell? It's appropriate. What's going on in the book at this point? Molly Bloom's soliloquy. Yes, yes, I will, yes. Oh, I wonder if they're doing that broadcast. I used to, that was one of the things I really got into about New York when I first moved here, was they did an all-day radio broadcast, I think on WNYC. Maybe it was on KCR, I'm not sure, of different passages from Ulysses, recited by different actors and shit. Wallace Shawn, or maybe Colbert was on it, I think. And I actually read Ulysses one of the first years I was in New York. April, I think 2014? Yeah, it was right before I started doing my show. So Ulysses was kind of a big, even I don't really think like a lot of that modernist stuff like T.S. Eliot or Ezra Pound, they act like you need to read all the footnotes to really get. You don't need to understand every little thing that's going on in the book. I mean, you can go for that if you want to. That's all there. But you can just kind of read the book, and you're absorbing the form, you're absorbing the technique, and it goes deep. I mean, if you want to, I read some Robert Anton Wilson. He's got some excellent Ulysses. There are certain academics, it's like their specialty here. It's like their whole career. It's like James Joyce shit. um, Finnegan's Wake, because Joseph Campbell, I think, wrote A Skeleton Key to Finnegan's Wake. That was like his first book, or one of his first books. It was like explaining what everything meant in Finnegan's Wake. It's like, I read a little bit of that sort of around. There's some great websites with Robert Anton Wilson, and he deconstructs it. Joyce is like not only the greatest writer, but he's the greatest designer. It's just like the claims that he makes. Every chapter has got like a body part that it corresponds with. There's 24 chapters, right? Because 24 hours, right? Could be wrong. I don't know. And they've all got like a. It's ridiculous. I'm not really impressed by that. When people like point to James Joyce as being like the ultimate genius writer, I enjoy James Joyce, don't get me wrong. And his books certainly like are it's amazing how few of them they are, and yet they are like cornerstones, or like they're a part, or they're each a place where like literature turned a corner, I think, in a certain way. But the fact that he's able to imitate like 2,000 years of English meter in like one chat, it's like, okay, that's cool, but it's also just kind of like it's cool, it's experimental, it's awesome, and there's a lot going on there. There's layers and layers and layers, and certainly he's like he's a super genius, there's no question. But I don't know, like a lot of that modernist stuff, or at least like T.S. Eliot, it's just studying the fuck out of it, really, like, maybe it does, maybe it gets you closer to God, or that's the thing with Joyce, is like there is some sense that I don't know, it's kind of psychedelic or something. He's kind of a pothead. Supposedly there was some party or something. Joyce met Proust once, or they were in the same room at one time in Paris, because they both lived in Paris, right, around the same time. Supposedly, like in 1919, Proust and James Joyce were in the same room at some point. I don't know. I gotta say, I think I'd take Proust if I had to choose. Well, to me, Joyce is Irish, and he's experimental, so like each of his books, I love Portraits of the Artist as a young man, when I was a young man. But I don't know, it's kind of it's uptight in a way, I don't know. Joyce is, he's sort of like the Grateful Dead in certain ways. But he's, I don't know, he's super uptight, and even as he's very like in his appetites and like I don't know, bodily. There's something about him that's just so, just admitting, I don't know, eating and shitting and his books, childbirth, they seem like they kind of portray those things in a way that's like, but that's not what I'm here to talk about. That's sort of a digression. I could go in on that for a little while. I'm a little rusty on my Joyce. Apparently he was an incredible singer. He won like the American Idol. He was an incredible tenor. I gotta say, I read his poems penny each or whatever, and I didn't really think that much of them, to be honest. No offense to James Joyce, but I mean, his books are poems, really, but I think there are better poets who have taken the ball and run with it, to be honest. I don't know. I don't think there's a lot more people I enjoy reading more. And to be honest, I think they're better writers, even with all his like gimmicks and stunts. It does seem like a lot of gimmicks. It's like, oh, now this chapter is going to be a play, and this chapter is going to be a, and it's like, well, yeah, but is it really? It's cool that he did that, but you kind of have to cut him some slack because it's all like kaleidoscope. Well, it's all just different pastiches and things. And there's kind of a sense that he only did it, like Dubliners was like short stories, and they're kind of realism, and they're just like emotionally effective. And that was it. He never did another one of those. Then he did Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man, which is like The Buildings Roman. It's a novel, and it sort of progresses through this weird kind of experimental prose development that imitates. And then that was the only time he did that, 300-page novel. And then Ulysses is, the ultimate portrait of reality. It's 24 hours. It's a loop. It's absolute, but it's like a dream world, and it's but it's a novel, and but it just goes to the limits. It's 800 pages, and everything is in this book. Everything, the entire fucking universe is in this goddamn book, and there's just every word. It's just, there's so many layers and layers and layers and layers, but you can read it. It's sort of like you can see how Portrait of the Artist Young Man kind of matured and exploded in development into that. There's a similarity. Whereas Dubliners at this point feels, I don't know, it's just kind of slow and grim. Ulysses, there is kind of like a festivities. It's just a feast, and it's so party colored. There's just so much going on. And then and then he's done with that. He did that one fucking time. Because it took him 10 years to write a fucking book, or that seems short, actually. For a book like that, did it take 20 years? I don't know. Ulysses came out, what, in 1919 or something, 1920? I'm not exactly sure what the chronology is. I'm an Irish fucking, I've definitely read my share. I never really read Finnegan's Wake. So he got done, and then Finnegan's Wake is just he inventing words and shit. And it's sort of like a dream novel, but it's encoded, and it's all, he's such a fucking genius that like he's combining etymologies and just slamming things together, and like it makes sense. It's just, he's able to get more effect, and he's I don't know, the fact that he's going beyond language into like inventing his own language, or I don't know, it is almost like he's jamming together like brain powers or something. It's like he's hot wired, or what do you do on your computer to make it go super fast? Overclock it. He's overclocked it, And but there's still a sense that it's like melodic, and it's like a song or whatever, Anna Olivia Pluribel or whatever the fuck, I don't know. And I like the idea that he kind of invented, and it's sort of a language poem. You can see how the language poets maybe got a lot of their ideas from James Joyce, and they're, some of them are kind of like James Joyce in the new day. But I don't know. People have this kind of like cult. He is like the Grateful Dead, where it's like, I don't know, certain people, it's like Joyce is like the ultimate kind of literary genius, other than like maybe Shakespeare, Dante. Like certainly in recent history, Joyce being, Ulysses being this some kind of like super groundbreaking, like earth-shattering event in, I don't know, human history. Maybe, I don't know. But anyway, I enjoyed it. I would look at it again. Maybe if I looked at it now, it really would blow my mind. I read Don Quixote. I like that. It was it was a great story. Ulysses, like I said, it has all these gimmicks, and it's all these, it just gives college professors there a lot to do for their jobs, because they can just talk about it and explain it, and that's cool. Didn't he say that? That was like one of his goals, or I don't know. But anyway, happy Bloomsday. The book changed my life. I don't know, but I'm into Proust, kind of. I don't know, more, maybe. Like I said, when James Joyce does these like put on things, it's like, okay, he's doing it, but I'd rather just read Proust. Or somebody who's just like like I said, there's Burnett Mayer is a better writer than James Joyce, on like a sentence by sentence, paragraph by paragraph, page by page. Like Burnett Mayer is a much better writer. Maybe I'm insane to say that. Anybody, Alice Notley, not anybody, but these modern writers, or the contemporary writers, there's a lot of them that are better writers, I think. I mean, James Joyce was able to strategize and like pack a bunch of bullshit in. And he's a poet, but his poems are actually not very good. I'd have to look at them again, but they were not good. Jack Kerouac, much better poet. But, so what happened to me today was, well, I was scheduled, because I did my dress rehearsal. Did that yesterday. As you saw last night, I went and I practiced. I really did practice, because I was filming this thing today, and I really wasn't sure what it was going to be, but, I thought if I planned out my route in advance, and I went in, and my goal was to just read it and not be animated or trying to like perform the text or anything. Like I literally was just like, I didn't introduce anything, I didn't say anything in between, I just read my stuff, I didn't say anything, and I just tried to be my performance goal. I was trying to play like quiet and even keel and level, like every other poet I see. To be honest, every poet I see read doesn't do anything. You look at John Ashbery, he doesn't do anything. He just reads it. He doesn't even try to emphasize shit or perform or anything. So part of my goal was to just like try that. Restraint. In a certain way, maybe I think it's easier for me to play that. It's harder for me to be restrained, I think. And sustain attention and sustain interest. The writing has to do it, And I cut my reading. I am happy, I have to say, with what I chose to read in the way that I did it. There was I cut a good amount. I think if I had to guess, I'd say I probably did 11 minutes. He said, dude, 10 to 15 minutes. And I wasn't really sure what the and this is me reading for Don Yorty's blog. Like I said, this is like a lifelong dream come true. This is like the absolute, like, you know. He said 2,000 people a week look at it when he shares it. So not that that's what it's about. It's just about, I mean, he's a legend. He's downtown. He wrote fucking, you know. And so it's a huge honor. I was just so, it's a dream come true to be asked, to be honest. And I wasn't sure exactly what the plan was where we were gonna do it. He said he wanted to meet at the church because I was filming the reading on Bloomsday, June 16th. I didn't even know it was Bloomsday. I literally just found out. What the fuck was I even looking at? I literally just found out. Where the fuck is my copy of Ulysses? Is it over there? Yeah, there it is. I'm fixated on this. We were going to meet at the church because I was supposed to film the reading. So I was supposed to get there at 4. And I've been going back and forth with them. And honestly, it wasn't my idea. What I thought was going to happen probably was we would film it in the plaza out front, where like the lion statue. I thought that would be cool. I thought that would fit my work, and that fits my style, to be honest. And it just, I don't know. I didn't know what his plan was, but I also trust him, and like, he's lived in the East Village since 1979. Like, he knows what the rules are. He knows what he can get away with, what he can't get away with. And like, I mean, he said something the other day that I found very liberating, where he was like, you know, it's the East Village. You can do whatever you want. It's like, yes, that's what the East Village is and is supposed to be. I think that the police and the city wants people to forget that. People are bringing in their suburban manners and their kind of like uptight conservative values, and it's like, no, the East Village, you can walk down the street naked. That's what it is. That's what it's for. You're not supposed to police your behavior. And so, you know, he's like, we'll just shoot it somewhere in the church. And I'm like, okay. I don't know what he thought. I didn't know what he had in mind. I thought, like I said, we'd shoot it on the plaza or something, because my poems are all about, you know, it's my book, City Life. It's all about, you know, the streets of New York City and this neighborhood and all of it. So I thought that would work. And so I let them know. I emailed them. I didn't know what he had in mind, but it was not my intention to do it on the grounds or anything like that. At least not inside or whatever. But like I said, he's been going there since 1979, so I trust that he knows the vibe and what we can do and how it works. I don't know. And so we're supposed to meet at 5. I get there at 4 to set my stuff up. We set up the lights. We set up all the chairs. We set up everything. My camera stuff's ready. And, you know, I wasn't trying to be coy about it. I was just like, I wasn't trying to brag about it. Because to me, it was a big deal. And, like, I didn't want to be like, oh, yeah, I've got this reading, blah, blah, blah. Don Yorty wants to film me, blah, blah, blah. You know, I just wanted to be like, yeah, because it was just, he asked me last week to meet him before the reading at 5. And then I found out Monday that they wanted me there at 4. So he asked me, you know, before I had a prior commitment. So I emailed them. I said, you know, I got to do this thing at 5, so we'll set everything up, and then I'll just break away. Like I said, I was thinking we were going to be out in the street on 2nd Avenue, but he had other plans. But it was cool. You know, they were fine. They were fine with it. They had no problem with the fact that I had to sort of break away from doing the work to, even though we got everything set up. So he shows up at 5, and there's not really anybody there yet. And he's like, we'll do it in the, he just starts walking in the church. He walks in the parish hall where they do the readings, where they've been doing the readings since 1966. You know, where it always is. And it's kind of beautiful because the lights are off and there's nobody in there. There's nobody in the church really at all, but the doors are kind of open. It's summery vibe. The weather was absolutely perfect today. Beautiful sunshine, just gorgeous day. Absolutely. And there's this beautiful light coming through the window. And I don't know what he has in mind. Like I said, I trust him. He's the master. I really do think his videos are phenomenal. Like, go on his blog. His videos are beautiful. They're really well done. So I'm just like, I trust his process. He's done this a bunch of times. I'm not going to try and basically I was just trying to do what I remember seeing on his website, which is just people reading their stuff, very subdued, no talking or anything. Just read your stuff. And most people he films in their apartments or something, or his apartment. But I thought it was cool. I thought, okay, he said, let's do it at the church. We'll meet before the reading. So I thought, cool, that'll be dope. I'll read it I'll read in front of the church or whatever he's got in mind. Like I said, I'm in his hands. I trust him. He's done this a million times. He's done it a bunch of times. His blog, he's been doing it since 2010, and it's cool. I recommend everybody check it out. It's really well done. We talked a little bit about that. He's just a great person. He's just, he's interesting to listen to. He's always got amazing stories and just he's from central Pennsylvania, outside Harrisburg. He was telling us a little bit about that. So I can relate to him. We're both from I'm from Ohio, he's from Pennsylvania. So anyway, so we go in and we're in the room and I'm like, I'm sort of like, well, can we really do this? Maybe I'm going to zoom in real fast. I feel like it's too far out. Like I said, it's early before the reading. There's nobody around. And there's this beautiful shaft of light coming through the windows. In the back of this room, there's 3 windows facing west. And it's 5 o'clock, so there's this beautiful light coming through the room. And he starts setting up the chair. He gets 2 chairs, 2 red chairs, and he starts setting up the chair in the light. And I'm like, okay, cool. This is not this is not necessarily what I mean. I've done a lot of video shoots, and that was the most artistic fucking thing you could have. That was the most artistic place you could have picked, to be honest. In that, because the window has a cross-cut pattern, and so it's just beautiful, especially just golden rays of light coming through. And so he puts the chair, and it's facing one way, then he kind of adjusts it diagonally, so it's on the angle with the light, and I'm like, oh my god, this is this is amazing. This is so beautiful the way he staged this. He has kind of a theater background, I think, or history. He does have kind of an actor studio and kind of Marlon Brando-ish vibe. And I did write a poem about it. That's kind of about. I did feel like this is my sort of screen test, or my James Dean. Trying to be James Dean this year. 6/16, Trial by Fire. I am ready to be discovered as an actor. My cross to bear is a tripod. So yeah, that's about being downtown and I'm ready to be discovered as an actor, and that's kind of what this was about. He films a lot of, poets, and his videos are great. He has artistic, he's an artist. He's a poet. His books are incredible. And so he put it in the absolute right place. And like I said, I just deferred to him completely. I was just wherever you want to do this, wherever you want to go. He closed the door to the kitchen and stuff. We closed the door to the room. They were cool to let us do it. I mean, like I said, I didn't intend or expect to do it in the damn parish hall, especially. I thought we'd do it someplace kind of, where there's nobody else around, but it was to be honest, it was one of the holiest things I've ever been involved in, because it's in a church and it smells great. I mean, church just smells great. What is that, sage, or whatever they got, that sensor thing, God, I wish I could get that in here. It smells phenomenal. And this fucking holy light is coming through, and Don Yorty, the kind of elder, archbishop or chaplain or whatever, and here I am being, videotaped in the sunlight, which is totally holy, in this room, which is just like the absolute, epitome center of, avant-garde poetics in this city, certainly, and probably the country, and maybe the world, and maybe the universe. But the atmosphere is just amazing. And he's got this tripod, and he just carries it like in a kind of a sling or something, like in a sack, like a messenger bag type thing, just like. And it's a tripod kind of like this, kind of light, and he gets his camera out. He's got like an HD, it's like a hard drive camera, so it's like a camcorder, but it doesn't have tapes. It's just a hard drive. We talked a little bit about that. He used to have a flip. He liked the flip, but then he had to, they changed it. They don't make it anymore. And I relate to that 100%. The iPod touches, and just like they changed the iPod or the iPhone in like 2015 or something, and it just got worse. So it's hard. The camera equipment, it keeps getting better, but the interface has changed. You can't use a fucking USB cord in a Mac anymore without some dongle. So he's got this. So he's like trying to put it on the fucking tripod, and he's just like twisting the camera on the little screw, like. And I'm like, that is amazing. Like, he's an artist. He doesn't need to know any of this bullshit. He picked the absolute greatest place we could have possibly filmed it. I don't know what it looks like. I have no idea. I haven't seen a frame of it. Hopefully it looks great. Like I said, I just trusted him 100%. And I just did exactly. I didn't do anything extra. I wanted to underplay it because I don't know. What I've been feeling with readings recently is it's better to just kind of read it. Just because it's just easier to listen to. I would rather listen back to something that just like is kind of even and clear. Especially for this, because it was a video. It was a movie. Like I said, this was a screen test. On stage you're big, but in the movies you dial it down. So that's what I was doing, I think. I don't know. I didn't even look up. I didn't even look up at the camera or anything. I didn't want to like go back and forth to like the camera. I just read, I kind of held my book up, but I wanted to be real subdued. And so, like I said, he's like fucking screwing his camera on the tripod, and I'm like, oh, let me see it. And I popped out the little tripod, plate or whatever. And I show him, like, hey, there's a latch and a screw kind of thing here on the bottom. So and he's like, oh yeah. So we popped it back in. I thought that was cool. And then he tells me, what Jackson Macklow said? Jackson Macklow said RTFM. RTFM. I'm like, what is that? He's like, read the fucking manual. Don, read the fucking manual. Which, I'm surprised that Jackson Macklow said that, because I'm not that familiar with Jackson Macklow, but I would imagine he would be more into chance operations and accepting things as they come, maybe. But he's also kind of a systems poet. So maybe, you do have to read the fucking manual. I don't know. I love the way Don Yorty was. It was just like so fucking honest, and just like he was approaching it as an artist. I want, here's the holy light. Here's a beautiful scenery. We got the chiaroscuro. in the shadows. That's what I thought. I was like, yeah, this will get, because the light coming across, you get kind of shadows thrown. So I thought, yeah, this is going to look good. And my first reading, we did 2 takes. My first reading, like I said, I didn't introduce or anything. I just said, because he said read from your book, so I said I'm reading from my book, City Life. And I did, like I said, I think I did a good edit. I didn't read too much that made it drag too much. And honestly, my first go-round was pretty good. There was nothing really bad about it, and there were some really nice moments. And the lighting probably, like I said, was beautiful. I didn't think he was going to let me do it twice. I may have, I don't know. That was cool. I got the feeling, because, okay, so the first shot was in this, like I said, by the window in this beautiful light. And I don't know, I just got the sense, like, I'm just reading it to him. Like, even though I'm in this room, and, like, it's this amazing space and amazing history, and it really was just me and him. He was sitting, 5 or 6 feet away from me in a chair, with the camera, and it did feel like I was like doing, I don't know, getting my first communion, or I don't even know, getting made man. It felt like I was getting, I don't know, initiated into the order or something. I don't know. Is that absurd? Taking the communion wafer. And I just thought, I'm just going to read kind of to him. I'm not going to... I threw in a little bit of sort of conversational dialogue-ish type thing. And I hit all the moments that I needed to hit for the most part. There was nothing that I really flubbed. And like I said, there were some good moments, but nothing too over the top. I didn't smoke. I smoked twice. Speaking of which, I'm almost out. I'll be out. I have 1 J left. It's been it'll be 24 days tomorrow since I bought it, so that's how long it lasts. So I thought, I read everything in a pretty good order. It wasn't too long. He said he liked it when I was done. He was like, I liked it. It was good. I mean, I don't think there was some, because part of what is difficult about it, and I talked about it yesterday, and if I worded, I may have just had a little introduction where I was like, I'm going to read from City Life. This is sort of my journals over the past 3 months, and it's a lot of small pieces that kind of link together. They string together into like a larger piece. Because a lot of the things that it's very kind of like stop and start, because a lot of the pieces are like short. They're kind of these perception haiku things, but they're somewhere between. They're not that short, but they're not like 2-minute long open mic poem. They're like, 20 seconds or 15 seconds. So there's a lot of those, and there's a lot of stopping and starting, and there's a lot of jokes, and I don't know, there's a density. After we did it, he bought a copy. Maybe I should have just given it to him. I probably should have just given it to him, but he asked me how much. So he bought a copy, $5, and he was sitting there reading it for a while. I don't know if that's always apparent to people when they hear me read, but there's kind of a simple density. There's like a simplified density to it. Like there's a lot more going on as far as like why I pick the things that I pick to say, and how they're kind of unified in the way the form holds together. Even though when I read it out loud, it's kind of like, like I said, it's very stop and start. It's like bumper cars or something. And it's like, it's a lot of kind of jokes that you're not really sure. I'm just kind of like trying to find a way out of the poem, but He said he liked Chelsea Girl's piece. Which, yeah, to be honest, like, that's, like, the best piece. That's the one thing that, like, actually probably stands up as, like, a poem that I could submit maybe to places. Other than, like, the two longer pieces, which I wasn't going to fuck with either one of those. He said he liked my poem Duck Sauce, which Duck Sauce is really short. Once again, it's like 3 stanzas, real short. And then it goes into the oral novel piece, which I'm not sure if he thought the Duck Sauce piece, if he meant he liked the oral novel piece. Because that's a big part of this book. It's 7 or 8 pages or something. And I didn't, I wasn't, but it's different because it's a recitation, like I talked about last night. I certainly wasn't going to read it for this video thing. This, I wanted to be New York. I wanted it to be downtown. I wanted it to be, it plays into a lot of these different tropes and style as far as, like, New York school type thing. It's Paul Blackburn type thing. It's a diary. It's got Joanne Kiger, but it's also, there's language elements. There's parts of it that are sort of like Bill Berkson-ish, or these are the things I'm trying to imitate anyway. And the whole thing is based on, like, sort of the anonymous diaries of the New York youth. Not based on it, but it's a similar. And that's what it's about, it's about how it plays in it. But stylistically, I wanted it to be partially about this moment of emerging out of the pandemic, and specifically doing it in New York City and what my own experiences have been, including dating and just the springtime and, everything that's in this book, walking around the streets, going to readings, having poetry life, and so reading selections from March to the end of May, you get 3 months. So there's a lot in this 11 minutes. Even though everything happens really fast, a lot does happen, and you get, like I said, you get the Chelsea Girl's poem, and then I also read the Buddy Holly poem, just because it's like a 2-minute long piece. Like, I couldn't read either one of those 7-minute long pieces. The only other poem in this book that's like normal kind of anthology or whatever length is the Buddy Holly piece, which, is not necessarily some awesome poem. It's really just like, it's just about the conceit that Buddy Holly is like one of us, and sort of writing him into that. This book being sort of a songline of a lineage of singing street poet, bohemian, whatever, etc., etc. And so I'm able to talk about that landscape, Washington Square, my own experience with it. Plus, it's one of the moments in the book where I do talk about, sort of political. I talk about how his marriage was intercultural. So that's an important thing, to recognize. And, the book has moments of that. I can't cover it always in every reading. I can't cover all of it. But I think that's one reason why the poem is significant, to mention that. And also as that being an aspect of New York, the way it was accepting. And that's how everyone should be. New York leading the way in that. There were a few moments that are maybe, I don't think I did anything that was like antagonistic or offensive. I mean, I did read the one line about my big juicy pussy, but I did it in a very like even-keeled way. And to be honest, the thing about that line, like I said, is it's a quote from my professor, Dr. Eziabe Roby. And so that story, the story behind the line, is the story of my relationship with him and his history being an exiled Nigerian playwright and poet. He wrote plays there that was so subversive, but he got exiled from the country. So he went to England, and he was an academic, and he kind of came up there, I think. And he got sick of it. He didn't really like, because they were condescending to him and racist. So he came to America. He came through New York. He's got some great New York poems. They're online. You can look them up. And he said this in class one day. Honestly, he was one of the best teachers I've ever had. Maybe the best. There was nobody who was more stirring and passionate. And just like, he just showed you what was possible and what was expected of you if you really want to be, an academic and a serious person. He was so passionate about poetry. He would tell us we need to memorize poetry, and he asked us who our favorite poets were. And I had no fucking... Well, not really. I mean, I like Keats, I think. And Shakespeare, of course. And James Joyce. So, he said that in class one day. He said New York is just a big... I mean, it's kind of a Scarface paraphrase, too. I mean... I don't know. I said a couple things where I'm sort of like... utilizing feminine... sexuality or something. Or gender... norm, or the other line, I think I'm on my period. Should I have read that? Maybe I should have skipped that line. I'm not trying to be appropriative. It's more just about that's how I felt, to be honest. And I think part of reassessing the gender formatting we're given is, okay, I'm a hetero, whatever, boring, cis piece of shit male. I'm not trying to be appropriative. I'm just saying, like, I can have that I can have a feminine side. I feel that way a lot. I do feel like temperamentally, I actually... I don't know. I'm like not to be appropriative. So I did it in such a way, like, I didn't land on this stuff super hard. I think the first take, there was some music came on from outside. He was worried about the sound, which I totally get. That's one reason why we didn't do it outside and we closed the doors and stuff, because, like, he was worried about the sound. And I think that's great. I don't know how good the microphone on his camera was, as far as, like, if I was standing 6 feet away from it and it's not going to pick me up, or if I would just be as loud as, like, trucks on the street or something. I wouldn't mind with the sound interfering with my reading a little bit, but I definitely would want my voice to be, like, the most present, apparent thing. Whereas this, it was, like, quiet. I don't mind that music came on. I really don't care. I mean, uh, it didn't feel like it spoiled the take or anything. Like so the way I kind of structured the reading was I read a bunch of kind of like short pieces up front with enough, and then kind of, about 4 or 5 poems in, I put like a good one in. and then another good one. So I had a few couple, but there was like, it was kind of awkward having a bunch of short ones in a row, and I didn't exactly know what I was gonna leave in or take out, but I was definitely in like a right mind. I wasn't feeling like nervous, really. I felt good. I felt like I did a pretty good reading. Like he said, he liked it. My goal was to just like safely get on base, frankly. I wasn't necessarily trying to like fucking wow the camera or anything. I was really just trying to get through it and just show like, hey, what I'm doing is, it's interesting. It's got more levels, and I don't. It's a way for me maybe to, well, Bloomsday's over. For me to reintroduce myself. That's one thing that I'm kind of struggling with, is like, I think I have a bad reputation. I think people have one idea about who I am. And so I'm struggling to like prove otherwise and like show like, hey, I'm here to play. I'm a nice guy. I want to be a part of this. I'm sorry if I was distant or fucking weird before, but I'm here now and I'm down. I'm ready. And so this is one way, if I can get on this and like he shares it. It's nice. He writes a nice write-up, or at least he did for the other poets. I didn't know what to do with my hair. I mean, my hair might have just been totally jacked. But he writes a nice, like, kind of, description or, story about the writer, and then he shares, like, a couple of the pieces. He types them out and shit. So it's a nice, like, little feature. It'll be a nice thing to have in addition to my write-up in Peach Magazine. This will be a nice... I mean, I'm trying not to... I'm appreciative. I'm not like... He's just a cool guy and an interesting person. It happened very organically. I wasn't like trying to politically get this to happen. It was, to be honest, it wasn't even on my radar. So it's cool that it's already kind of in the can, And like I was just trying to bring it down and just read it. I don't know. My voice gets into like this kind of annoying place when I read, where I'm like, I don't know. It's like very sarcastic, and like I'm trying to like be a little more vulnerable, and I don't know how people can just kind of like read deadpan and make it work. For me, it feels like if I do that, I'm dead, or it's just not gonna work. Whereas this, I think I was kind of able to do it. I don't know. I mean, I'm not really gonna hopefully it turns out awesome, and I hope people like it. I think it was, I think it was on this side of, like, I think his reaction is how people are going to take it. It's like, I liked it. They might not be like, holy shit, that was amazing. But that's kind of fine with me. I don't really want to do that. I wasn't trying to do that. I wasn't trying to be like, wah, fucking, I'm going to really show off for this blog. I didn't want to, I'm not into showing off. Contrary to what, my KGB bar, I'm trying to like, I was just trying to put the ball in play. And I think I did. I think there were enough things about this that he likes. And I think the more he kind of looks at it, the more he's going to be like, okay, I see what's kind of going on here. Like, it is like a cohesive piece, and it is like trying to do a lot of different things. I don't know. Um, I didn't really explain that, or I think it was just better. I didn't really need to do talking or anything like that. It's better this way. This is like just let the work stand for itself. That's one thing. I want it to be different than the reading last week, which was like very performative and very like in character and going all out. This was like such a beautiful setting and so subdued and quiet. With my outfit, I just wanted to, I wanted to wear something like formal-ish, like a button. This is like something my dad would wear to a gig when he was like in his 30s. So that was kind of going through my mind, like a sort of, dark, but basically Hawaiian style button up. So it's good on stage because it's not super bright. So I had to do the video stuff too. So I wanted to sort of strike a balance between like camera crew and like, I wanted to look basically like on the cover of John Godfrey's book, Where the Weather Suits My Clothes. I think that's what it's called. Is that what his book's called? He has kind of an outfit like this. So I was kind of trying to approximate that. Like, I wanted to look like, it's Don Yordy's blog. I'm in St. Mark's Church. I want to look like one of these guys. I want to look like Elio Schneemann or the downtown poet guys who live in the East Village. And so that was kind of my vibe through this, was just like, this is my 70s public access poetry. I didn't want to read anything that was going to get me into hot water, like being too sexy. I didn't want to be too sexy. Like I read my Raul Julia appreciation. I kind of threw that one in. That was probably my wild card choice. I wasn't sure what to end on because I could, I like reading this May kind of sequence. The Antler poem, I think, is kind of an interesting thing to throw in there. It's quick, but it's sort of like the Chelsea Girls piece because it's it's a unified. It's just got a kind of funny conceit. every term antler in it, and so it kind of, I don't know. It's an interesting word, antler. It's phallic, but it's also fur, and it's natural. It's mammalian. So even though, I don't know, it's this kind of thing that like. It just kind of throws an interesting effect into the air, and I think it's kind of memorable. It's just kind of a good way to sneak the word antler into people's minds, because it's worth thinking about. Even if in the poem, it's just like these were all. Maybe I should do like a commentary of the book. Maybe that's what I'll do. These were all like books on Goodreads, or yeah. I searched for Antler because there's a poet named Antler. So I guess in this sense, this is sort of an homage to Antler, who I've never actually read. But I think he's kind of like Sparrow. The one word. They're so pure. But Antler, so these were all results. These are all books. The Deer's Antler Tree, Antler Dog Tales, 2 Antler Spoons from Ontario. I don't know what the fuck that is. And then there's all these weird like antler science and product technology. Like, I don't know what the fuck, but it's like glue. You know how they make it out of like horse fucking whatever feed or whatever the fuck it is. Antlers, I think it's the same thing. I think there's like weird shit like antler science and product technology. I think there's like weird shit they make out of antlers. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but I think antlers can be like ground up to like make some kind of fucking sick ass whatever, fucking whiteout or glue sticks or I don't know. And then Gundog Shed Antler Training was something that came up a few times, and I really don't know what the fuck that is. Gundog Shed Antler Training. But I don't know. This just felt like a way to throw in nature. But in sort of like it's a list poem, I guess. And but I think it creates an interesting texture. I think it's a little bit of like a nook or cranny for you to think about later. It might hit you like, oh fuck, remember that antler? What the fuck was that about? Like I said antler a bunch of times. That was kind of funny. It's just a joke. It's just kind of funny. But then it goes into this May sequence. So this is all part of this May sequence, which I think is kind of a fun, long poem. That's the way I looked at it. Even though there's a lot of stop and start and a few different pieces in this, like Gigi Ireland, Where Art Thou, People Weekday, Executive Decision, Small Talk, Horny and Spiraling, and Terror. You know, that's a number of different... To me, it's all kind of one long poem. The long poem being, it's May. So, like, that's the way the book is sort of organized. You know, there are these longer pieces like the Cafe Life. That's right before the end. And then right after that, it's this May sequence, which is made out of these smaller, thinner... You know, the Cafe Life is just this huge... long poem with just long lines and just lots and lots and lots of everything. It's just this, you know. And then the May sequence is a long poem, but it's skinny and it's funny and it's about dating and it's more contemporary. It's, you know, there's some language stuff in here, but you know, St. Vincent, Charles Grodin. Fuck this stupid life, I think, is a great line. I think that's like as good as You Must Change Your Life. I think it's as good as I Have Wasted My Life. I think fuck this stupid life. I don't know. That's my I Have Wasted My Life. Fuck this stupid life. I don't know. Maybe it's not as good, but it's my line. And then Small Talk. I mean, Small Talk could be the name of this poem. This whole poem at the end, it is like small talk. The stanzas are these small, the poems are small. So I'm hoping that if you spend time with this book, you tease that kind of stuff out. Like, it's not arbitrary that I called it small talk. You know, like I'm saying something about the way it's meant to be received and just like the nature of what that is. I heard somebody put down small talk the other day. They said, I don't do small talk. I think that's bullshit. You don't do small talk. How do you socialize with anybody at all? I mean, there have been times in my life where I didn't do small talk, and then I learned how to do small talk, and I hate myself mostly when I'm socializing. I'm not like as funny or as smart as I'd like to be. I'm less confident, but the point is you're making an effort. You're bridging, you're reaching out, and you're saying, hey, I'm interested in knowing you and spending time with you and conversing with you. I'm not just going to like stand here and like, I don't need to fucking try to engage with you. I don't need to make small talk. I need to, I don't know. I just think there's something, I don't think there's any such thing as small talk, to be honest. I think that's like a condescending term. And I think it's unnatural to not do small. It's one of these sort of like Baudelairean alienated, like with the city and with metropolitan life, I think we are like estranged and we don't talk to each other in weird, in public circumstances. We don't make small talk with strangers. Or at least a lot of people don't. I do. So before the reading today, this was one of the magic things that happened today. I'm walking in and I'm coming up around to get in the back gate because I walked up 10th to get there. I just take the most beautiful route to get there. I go down 8th to Greenwich Ave. Greenwich Ave all the way. Turn left where fucking E.E. Cummings Patch in Place. Right by that clock tower. And then I think I go 10th Street, and that takes me straight to the church. Literally. Greenwich Ave, bam. Beautiful. I love walking on Greenwich Ave. That's in the book. I'm obsessed with Greenwich Ave. It's the fastest way home. Then I turn left on Patch and Place, or, whatever the fuck that is. That, I think it's Christopher Street. Is it? Pretty sure that's the end of Christopher Street. How crazy. And then that turns into 10th. So they're really all the same street. Christopher Street and 10th Street. It's the same shit, really. And Greenwich Ave turns into 9th, basically, I think. Or 8th, maybe. I think Greenwich Ave turns into 8th, which turns into St. Mark's. So that's all one street, more or less. And these diagonal streets are just so useful because you just shortcut. They're beautiful. I love the diagonal streets. Stuyvesant Street is the one by the church. So if you go 9th Street, you turn left on Stuyvesant, it's another it's like these paths are there. They've been there for centuries because they are the best way to get around to these places. This church has been there since 1600 or something. And it's been rebuilt in the 1800s, but it's the oldest standing church in Manhattan except for, I think, Trinity or whatever it is. So I'm walking around the gate to get in, and there's this guy sitting on the corner, a black guy, and he's got like a cigarette, and he's like, hey, can you, and of course, I think he's going to ask me for money, so I'm like, oh, no, sorry, man. He's like, can you give me a light? And I'm thinking, somebody asked me for a light the other day on the street. I just thought, why not? Like, yeah, I'll give this guy a fucking light. He said he wants a light. I got a lighter. So I'm like, yeah, okay. So I light his cigarette, and I start talking to him a little bit, making small talk. He starts talking about David Peele. He was all about David. He just started talking about music. I don't remember how, but he was telling me just about all his music shit. He was like, he worked in some studio on 48th and 8th Ave, and he had a Gibson GBS and a Fender this and he was, I got the impression he was bands. He kept talking about David Peele. David Peele's a bad motherfucker. David Peele in the Lower East Side. Bad motherfucker. And he was like, the Fillmore East, why'd they ever get rid of that? He originally was talking about Jimi Hendrix. He's like, the song Voodoo Child? Slight Return. I'm like, yeah. He's like, fucking Jimi Hendrix put the baddest. And then Steve Winwood is a bad motherfucker. I'm like, yeah. Is Stevie Winwood on fucking Voodoo Child? I'm not sure. I thought he was. He's on some Hendrix stuff, right? I think. Or they jammed together. I read some fucking thing where they jammed in the Village. Hendrix, another Village fucking poet. Absolutely. You want to talk about McDougal Street? Fucking, how did I not mention Hendrix in my book? Because he is absolutely a West Village maniac. Just like absolutely artist. Absolute bohemian West Village poet, no question. I need to do a Jimi Hendrix poem, and I will. To compliment. I mean, I did feel bad about writing a Buddy Holly poem. It's like, god damn, dude. What a cliche. Like, fucking Weezer already did this. Like, I don't know. You want to write this. That's why I wanted to write about his marriage, because, like, okay, it's not just about, well, let's celebrate this white guy. It's like, he wasn't a, I called it an intercultural marriage in the poem. I'm not sure if that's a real term. I just thought that's kind of what it is. I don't know. She was from Mexico, I think, or of Mexican descent. Which, like I say, in Texas, there was prejudice. I think that is one reason why he moved here, actually. I think that probably did have a lot to do with it. My point about it was, he was he spent a lot of time, I guess. He lived in Greenwich Village. How strange, Buddy Holly at the end of his life lived in the West Village, and he went around to jazz clubs and he went to poetry readings, and it's interesting, I don't know, to think about it in a way, especially maybe in the context of his records and what he was doing and maybe where he would have went. I have always thought, I don't know, like I say in the thing, Buddy Holly's work has this sort of notebook quality. Everything I say in it, the compressed precision, the simplicity, that's part of it I was trying to define, because Buddy Holly has been like an important artist to me, to be honest. His music as a guitar player and as a songwriter, like his record, my dad had his record, his 20 greatest, hits or whatever, and it did have a profound impact on me when cause everything is just so neat, and it's all ADE, that's it. Every once in a while he'll go to the minor six. You can see him, he learns and he uses stuff just with total elegance and absolute precision, His stuff is just so well organized. But at the same time, it has this rock and roll, kind of raucous garage band quality, because it's just him and these 3 fucking dudes from Texas, the Crickets, doing it, making the harmony. They make all of it. So he's got that kind of, ramshackle garage band quality. And of course, he was the first kind of contained singer-songwriter guitar guy. And he inspired, so many people grew out of Buddy Holly, obviously. The Beatles, and most notably probably the Beatles, but also fucking anybody. A lot of power pop type stuff, I feel like, comes out of the Bobby Fuller 4, Crickets, those songs. The songs I mentioned in this poem that he wrote, it's called The Apartment Tape, right? And The Apartment Tape is the demo tape that Buddy Holly recorded in his Greenwich Village apartment on acoustic guitar. If you watch the Buddy Holly story, he's kind of doing it. He's got a reel-to-reel, and he recorded demos for these songs that are like, some of his best work. You can see him developing. And weirdly enough, they were very influential on the Beatles. If you listen to the BBC album, they do Crying, Waiting, Hoping, and they do, the Crickets album. So what happened was Buddy Holly recorded these acoustic demos, and after he died, because he only lived in the Village for like a few months. He moved there in October 58, and I think he died in February or something, 59. And but he recorded these acoustic demos of these songs that I mentioned in the poem, Crying, Waiting, Hoping, When You're Feeling Sad and Blue, Love's Made a Fool of You. No, that was somebody else that wrote that song, maybe, I think. But Blue Days, Black Nights, I think maybe was one of them. An Empty Cup and a Broken Date was one of them. And I think Learning the Game was one of them. Because what they did was they took the demos that were just him and acoustic, and the Crickets overdubbed the backing parts. So they put electric guitar, they put bass and drums over Buddy Holly's demos, and they released those. And the Beatles heard those because those came out in 59 or 60, and they covered a lot of them. If you listen to the BBC album, in outtakes and shit, they covered, the Beatles, they did Words of Love, obviously, on Beatles for Sale, but you can just tell that they learned a lot, from Buddy Holly, Greenwich Village notebook poet. So that's kind of what that is about, me kind of inhabiting or imagining his lifestyle in Greenwich Village and why he moved there. Supposedly he'd take his guitar down to the fountain and play with the fucking folkies and shit. So who knows, what would have happened if Buddy Holly would have lived through the Bob Dylan thing, how that would have changed his lyrics, and or his whole everything. He would have been psychedelized and had long hair and He would love that shit. But I don't know. As a poem, it's just kind of like a lot of my work, I'm trying to sort of shorthand construct these types of histories and relate all this stuff together and relate these ghosts and their abilities and the lineages and the techniques. Why? Well, part of it is exploring the mystery of, okay, why was Buddy Holly... My dad had a Buddy Holly record that I heard when I was 19, and I learned all the fucking songs. You know, I had Buddy Holly, and I got the Buddy Holly 50 fucking greatest hits double CD. I bought it at a record store I paid money for it. You know, before you could just steal everything off the internet or off of YouTube or whatever. I bought a Buddy Holly 50 songs, and I fucking loved it. I listened to the fuck out of it. And so to have that come back and sort of learn, like, oh, okay, now I'm in this place he was in, and he was kind of tuned into this period. It's so part of my gimmick and my, my investigation and my corny identity and stuff is this sort of beatnik period of what Greenwich Village, McDougal Street, poets, Taylor Mead, John Brent, Hugh Romney, a lot of people I mentioned in the thing. Who else? Third Stream Humor. But also the Beats, of course. Ginsberg, Corso. People reading at the Gaslight. People... Jack Michelin was there. You know? Bob Kaufman was there. On McDougal Street. At this time, the same time that Buddy Holly was. It's just kind of an interesting that he was part of that milieu. You know, Buddy Holly could have conceivably been at the 5 spot at the same time as Frank O'Hara or Leroy Jones or any number of people. Diane DePrima. He could have been at Cafe Reggio. And so there's just a lot of things like this in my life where places you're attracted to, like the church, you know, I initially just went there because there was a poetry marathon. I didn't know anything about it at all. And yet it's been sort of this recurring important place in my life, you know, important location. And so part of these books and my poetics is investigating these song lines in the histories of these locuses of energy, in a way. West Village, I don't know. Why does it attract? Why is McDougal Street? Why does it attract Buddy Holly and all of these other people? And especially at that time, and talking to the ghosts. I'm not sure what the point of it is. I mean, part of it is like, it feels a little bit inappropriate to be living more in the past than in the present. I'm trying to just be more friends with the people who are my immediate peer group now that I can. And it's a little hard because my reputation, like I said, is kind of fucked. I'm going to adjust the camera one more time. So yeah, I don't know. It's kind of a corny, redundant. Do I need to write a fucking Buddy Holly tribute poem? I don't know. I just think it's kind of interesting tying it into this context. And it's part of, the book is about village poets and writing, in my own sort of like walking in the footsteps and charting that. And it's sort of, like I said, I mean, based on where I was a year ago, did I expect to be in this position right now doing this? Like, no, probably not. I mean, it's my wildest dream come true, to be honest. And spending all this time in this neighborhood, it just, all of this stuff happened very organically. And so that's what the book is about, you know. The E. E. Cummings, this is not somebody I was really that interested in, to be honest, before. But it feels important to be investigating. Feels like that's why I was put in this position, to do this research and to do this investigation and this kind of reconstruction. Don Yorty said that he filmed Bill Kushner in the church. I asked him when he started filming. He said 2010. And he said he got a camera in 2010, and he filmed Bill Kushner in 2010 in the church. So I thought, oh, cool. Bill Kushner, one of my heroes, the modern Whitman, and lives in Chelsea. So I was asking him a little bit about Bill Kushner as we were sort of setting up. It felt like a shoot. I mean, he's an artist. It was just so educational to see. Even the way he was like screwing the fucking camera on. I was just like, man, this guy's like just got beginner's genius. You know, he's got like, his technique is not tainted by conscientious reading the fucking manual. RTFM. But I don't know. I've always adhered to the don't read the manual. I saw some thing on VH1 when I was in high school with Bowie, David Bowie, and he's talking about synthesizers in the 70s and how when they got the synthesizers, they got a manual with it and they just threw the fucking manual away. I don't know. I think that's probably a bad idea. I don't know. Reading the manual. Maybe you should read the manual. I don't know. I'm going to remember that now. Read the fucking manual. If Jackson Maclow said it. I'm not that familiar with Jackson Maclow, but now I'm going to investigate. I've got his book. His selected works or whatever. Pretty heavy. Pretty fucking heavy. So, yeah, I mean, we did 2 takes. The second take, I mean, the first take was strong. Like I said, I don't know, I could have ended with my image about Hannah found a bug in her food and took a lift home, but I thought, I don't know if that's really strong enough. And then I have this other piece about, I don't know, I guess it's a little too cute. It feels kind of metaphysical, and it feels like I don't know, some kind of fucking James Tate or something. It feels like some kind of weird French fucking poem or something, Francis Ponge or something, about how my dad would give the host a fake name and shit at the restaurant. And it's just, I don't know, it's kind of an interesting note to end on. So I threw in the Raul Julia appreciation post because that feels, I don't know, contemporary and I also kind of mentioned dating. So I wanted to sprinkle, you know, there are kind of themes woven throughout dating stuff. Like I said, coming out of the pandemic and just kind of it is trying to express like city life and my city life through these past few months, and just like going to readings on rooftops, you know, all of it. Spending time in Manhattan. Nature obviously throughout. I read my Failure Academy poem. I'm glad I got that in. I wasn't sure. I mean, that's another one that like but it's just got a good ender, but the end is just kind of cute. It's not like some super profound I don't know. I mean, I feel like if I found a recording of this, I would enjoy it. If I just found a recording of somebody reading this without some kind of super over emphatic intonation, I would enjoy it. I'd think it's more, I don't know, it's more about laying different expectations of grammar and meaning against or across each other, and just kind of how life does that. You know, the way all of our moments and perceptions and thoughts and mental images and, you know, intuitions and flashes, the way they're all kind of just going every which way, but also very clear at times. But they're non-linear. It's hard to get non-linear across sometimes in a reading, especially when you have all of these like split ends of fragments that you're trying to make seem like are seamless. You know, I generally only try to include the stuff that really like lays well against itself and lays like naturally together and provides like kind of a successful kind of torsion through speech rhythms. And mostly I am after the sound of thinking. So lately what I've been worried about is just like, I feel like there's not enough stuff in my work that is just like gonna wow people at how smart it is or something. Like I don't know how to like with my reading, I was trying to just not be bad and do a little bit of good stuff. So people would come away thinking, "Oh, that was good." You know, it wasn't like it didn't knock me out. I thought that's the best I could do. You know, after hearing my friend read at KGB and then you know, all the readings I've been to recently, like at the project and the reading tonight even, this fucking piece that the first reader read was just so phenomenal. It was about the pandemic, but it was just so great. I mean, it was just so smart, and just like, as a listener, you're sitting there listening to it and you're just like, fuck yeah, this is fucking smart, and like, this is great. You know, like my writing, it's not that good. I don't know how to like sizzle that hard. I think that I'm trying as hard as I can as it is. And so when I read it in front of people, there's really not that much going on. I mean, I don't know. A lot of I admire, like, okay, this guy James Laughlin, he's got this book, right? I got it for free in San Francisco at this open mic because they just like gave people books at the open mic. It was incredible. So this James Laughlin book, I didn't even know who he was. I just picked it because I think I knew what New Directions was at that point. I was like, okay, this is the New Directions guy. I didn't even know he was a poet. And it's like a memoir, basically, of all his, like, when he knew William Carlos Williams and blah, blah, blah. And various poets, Rex Roth and whatever. But his style, and it's all written in poetry. I mean, his version of poetry. And it's just so fucking, I mean, it's tall, thin columns, basically, for the most part. And it's just so, like, plain. But there's something about it that just, like, I really enjoyed. I don't know why. Like, it's even, like, Reznikov's sort of like that. James Laughlin has a little bit of a Rex Roth thing, if you took all of like the like corny magic out of Rexroth, like if you took all of like the striving to like invent some kind of like new meter and like be modernist and American, but also like have like a rhythm and like a nature and like be like poetic, and like James Laughlin is almost like a lot of the writers that I like, I supposedly are, they write, sort of William Carlos Williams influenced, thin, plain spoken, modern American usage sort of poems. Like you could say Charles Bukowski is a poet that's his style essentially, more or less. That's about as far as you get technique wise with Bukowski. It's tall, thin, and it's just plain spoken. And I mean a lot of fucking like I said, Rexroth or fucking Creeley is like that to some degree. I mean he makes it even more small. But Eileen Miles, James Schuyler, is kind of a tall, thin, post William Carlos Williams. There are different ways of doing it. Like the thing that I found remarkable about the James Laughlin was it was just so, not even like, there is a subtle difference between just prose that you've chopped lines into and like poetry that, like I feel like a lot of the work in this is like prose like, but it's not really prose because it all just came out like this. I didn't work anything over. I don't have punctuation at all. I don't use capital letters. Like I don't use commas, periods. I've got accent marks like for certain words in foreign languages and whatnot. But there's definitely parts of this that are like prose like, but there, like I said, there's a subtle difference. It's like, and the James Laughlin stuff kind of I don't know. At this point I just aspire to, and I know I'll never, I don't know if I'm going to get to this place, but I really aspire to just write like very plain, kind of enjoyable. Like there's something very enjoyable about listening to somebody just write something that has that kind of ease and clarity and I don't know, like it's not reaching for effect, it's not showing off, it's not herky jerky kind of rhythms and this and that. It kind of flows steady and it's clear, and I kind of I'm looking for that style. I wish I could just write pieces that were like that kind of tall, like Schuyler, of course, is being maybe the utmost model, the thing that you're trying to get close to, where it's tall, thin poem. And that feels like weirdly like body, I don't know, dysmorphic, or to keep saying tall, thin, because it's not really about how thin it is. Like there's something about modernity or our lives, short attention span, that short lines, economy, I don't know, it just feels, and it also just feels like you can take it with you. You can put anything in there. Anything like 10 syllable lines or longer lines, that can start to feel old fashioned. It can start to feel like from the 15th century. If you overdo it, there's something about short lines that it causes you to sort of simplify. And I think simplification is not a bad goal in a certain way. I think I've kind of simplified maybe in the wrong way. I have always kind of aspired to use like simple, I don't know, like my goal with my writing over the past few years, the way that I've described it to myself, has been to just write like I actually talk or like I think. Mostly how people talk. That's why I write down things that people say, or just like sort of perfect phrases that just sort of pop into the day one way or the other, whether they come out of your own mind or somebody says them, you hear them on the street, or I don't know. So I'm sort of collecting those and trying to like organically structure them into things that sound like good poems. But there's something about economy. I'm really trying to compress syllable count and compress, I don't like using the word and. And I don't want to throw words away. I don't want to say the or. So, as a consequence of that, I don't really have a lot of long sentences for the most part in a lot of these poems. They're all just sort of fragments or very truncated, for better or for worse, probably for worse. And once again, that's a short attention span thing, and like just that's modern life. Just trying to get things in fast for social media where everything's small. Maybe I'll get a 1 a.m. What is it? 12:46. Maybe I'll get a 1. Kind of getting tired. And I don't know. I'm not sure if I actually do sound like I'm trying to be absolutely contemporary and absolutely of the moment. But I don't know. I feel like my work is kind of old-fashioned in a way. I don't know how to now that I'm actually living in the moment more than I was. I've been living in the past, but now I'm starting to come into the present moment, into my immediate peer group in a certain way, I hope. And I think, I don't know, I'm ready to rebuild my swing. I'm ready to take apart my style, and I just don't know. I mean, with all of the work I've ever done, I've never really been able to just like really fucking wow the fuck out of people. Like, I don't know. I'm afraid of greatness. You have to take that, and you have to be arrogant or something in a way, I think, to command and just like want to really conquer people like that. Like for me, I think I shy away from that kind of. But also, like, I don't know. Not that I think that this book is like some super home run, but there's so many things in it that I like. That's part of what I include, and part of what I want to is just things I want to read, things I want to say, things I enjoy saying. Like, he loves his heat rock. That's something my brother always says about. It's a quote from a Mr. Show skit. He loves his heat rock. It's something about some lizard. You know how you have like a heat rock if you have like a lizard, they love their heat. He loves his heat rock. So I don't know. I just put that in there because, like, well, first of all, it's an image, right? Heat rock. The idea being that, like, love. I think this is probably one of the best poems in the whole thing. Heathers. Hold on loosely, colorful gloom, heat lamp. He loves his heat rock. She glows in the dark. So the he loves his heat rock thing. So to take this poem apart, all right. First, it was called something else. I think it was called something about the traditional avant-garde or something. But I had this other poem called Heathers. And I was like, Heathers is a badass title. I need to use Heathers. In this poem, it just fits this poem better. Because this poem is like, it's about, sex and love and women and whatever. And intimacy. But it's also kind of, I don't know, it's like, it's kind of a Western. It was inspired by people in California, sort of. Uh, but Hold On Loosely, that's a fucking song, right? Who does that song? Fucking 38 Special or something. Hold On Loosely. It's just kind of a funny Hold On Loosely. It's just such a specific kind of energy, Hold on loosely. Hold on but loosely. I think it's kind of and it's just an interesting phrase, the LO, hold on loosely, like those O's. But it's so the idea, if I'm putting that in there, it's putting that song in your head. What is this song about? Hold on loosely. It's like a sex song, right? Hold on loosely. It's like some kind of sex thing, some kind of rock and roll sex thing. And then, okay, colorful gloom, right? Like gloom is not colorful. Gloom is traditionally black or gray or smoke or whatever. But those, once again, those O's and those L's. So these two lines loosely goes with gloom. The LOO is in both words. And then hold on and colorful, HOLCOL. And then you have COLO, so hold. It all just kind of, it's an internal rhyme. But it's like, so colorful gloom. I was trying to describe the lunatic hour, who's like kind of goth. Like goth is like, it's like colorful, even though it's monochromatic and it's gloomy. So I don't know, just trying to, it's one of these things that with words you can create that contradiction of colorful gloom. What does that look like in your mind's eye? Sort of like when you close your eyes, that's like a colorful gloom. It's gloomy, but it's also kind of like orange and hold on loosely, colorful gloom, heat lamp. In a heat lamp, I mean, I do say heat lamp and heat rock. So do I really need both of those? I could just say hold on loosely, heat lamp. He loves, hold on loosely, colorful gloom. He loves his heat rock. She glows in the dark. I don't know. There's something about the repetition and like, I'm not sure why the fuck I put a heat lamp in there, but I don't want to explain it. He loves his heat rock. Once again, this is a fucking Mr. Show line. She glows in the dark. So dark kind of rhymes with heat rock. And I don't know, just the rhythm of that just really works. I don't know. It does for me anyway. He loves his heat rock. She glows in the dark. That's like a beautiful sex image, I feel like. It's a way of talking about sex without being, too and I don't know. I just think she glows in the dark. It's like, I don't know. It's just a good image. And everybody know. I mean, glow in the dark. It's like, this is a. That's another element of just, I don't know, certain phrases collecting, like this other poem. The fact of the matter is. This is a phrase that you hear people say all the time. Well, the fact of the matter is. And so I thought, okay, I should put that in a, because it's just kind of an interesting piece of language that it doesn't necessarily have any intention. So this poem, Duck Sauce. Don Yorty said he liked duck sauce. Which I'm not sure if he meant this whole fucking thing or just that one little piece, but duck sauce, right, is like what they give you in a restaurant. It's like a hoisin sauce or something, right? Or duck sauce is that orange sauce? It's like what they give you at a Chinese restaurant, right? It's like an orange or something. Isn't that duck sauce? I don't know exactly what duck sauce is, but once again, it's like that. Those almost rhyme. The UC are in both duck sauce. So you have that, they're both one syllable. Duck is 4 letters, sauce is 5 letters, so you have that kind of incrementing up. UC, duck sauce, duck UC, sauce UCE. So you have that C change from being a hard sound to being a S sound. And then you have the S So I'm kind of fascinated by that. I mean, I don't know. I could be way off, but that does feel like an effect of poetry to me, to be investigating the differences, in playing the variety in the line. So you're getting the C twice, which is a nice rhyme, but you're getting two different kind of consonant sounds that sound good together. Duck sauce. And it's just one of these phrases, just boom, boom, two monosyllabic words. It's like duck soup, kind of. But this is something everybody fucking... it's one of those things in our lives that, like, we all know what duck sauce is. But does it... I don't know. I mean, part of my poetry is retrieving all of the detail and sort of just reconstructing, given the effect that you are, an entire season, an entire life, so from the fact this is called duck sauce, you could read that a number of different ways, but certainly one way to read it is like I'm eating in a Chinese food restaurant, and that interaction with the people, and everybody knows what that experience is like, at least, a lot of people do. So you can deduce that from it, and that plays into the kind of landscape of where this season takes place. So now you have, that's a part of the neighborhood, that's a part of the city, that's a part of our, day-to-day experience. The fact of the matter is, a walk is a poem. Here comes one now. Whoops. The fact of the these are things that I wrote down throughout the day that didn't really have anything to do with each other, that just sort of happily added up to something that sounded like an actual sentence, even though they're not intended to be related. The fact of the matter is, I mean, that's just such a bossy, like, asshole. The fact of the matter is, but also you have fact, matter, that kind of rhymes. The F-A-C-T with M-A-T-T. The fact of the matter is, I don't know, there's something about these phrases that are, these popular kind of common speech, fair usage or whatever phrases, public domain slang type, or stock, they're almost like stock. There's tons of this shit that's just like, we say it all the time, be that as it may, but they're kind of amazing. The fact of the matter is, be that as it may, so I'm constantly, like, using those kind of things, just throwing them in, I'm trying to see if there's any other examples. They're good ways to, like, get in and out of poems. My left side is my good side. You be the judge. A lot of times they come from advertising and shit like that. That's one thing that George Carlin is super good about, is finding these, like, marketing phrases. We pass the sales back to you, or pass the savings back to you. That, like, we all hear this shit. Private property. Like, what the fuck? They're phrases, they're memes. You be the judge. It's just kind of an amazing, you be the judge. And so, when you're high, these phrases, like, occur to you and you kind of hold them up. That's what my work is, basically. I'm just like, these are all totally normal, unexciting, unremarkable things, but it's just like, if you think about them when you're high, you're like, what the fuck? You be the judge. And that kind of rhymes in a way, too. The U, Y, O, U, B, and then judge, J, U, and then it ends with G, E, which rhymes with B, B, E. So, it kind of rhymes within itself. Maybe that's one reason why it's a fucking meme or like a stock phrase that we just can kind of, you just kind of insert this stuff. The fact of the matter is, and so I don't know, including a lot of different kinds of phrase matter, things you hear on TV. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. You know, like this is like a fucking cliche now. And it sort of marks the time. It's something we all recognize. So I put it in there just to be like, okay, this is a fucking like something that people say right now. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. It's a trademark phrase. It's a branded phrase. You know, balsa wood, lingonberry, yellow AA batteries. Those are all images from IKEA. Lingonberry, that's like their fucking like juice or whatever they sell. And then they have the most incredible deal on batteries. If you ever need batteries, go to IKEA, because I mean you could literally just get like 16 AA batteries for like $4. But they're yellow. So I don't know. Through this you have all these B's, D, L, balsa wood, lingonberry, yellow AA battery, you know, like it doesn't mean, like, this poem, okay, The Failure Academy, I just thought was a good title, because that's not what an academy is supposed to do. It's supposed to be you're supposed to succeed in an academy. But I just thought that was a funny. It is dark inside God's fist. I don't know. It's just a badass line. Is there poetry in that? I'm not sure. You know, this is the thing that I'm questioning right now. Like, I think it's a good phrase, but is there anything in that phrase that, like, has any kind of self-referencing, like, elaboration that, like, it's just kind of the first half of it. I don't know. It seems like everything I have is just kind of like, a lot of it's just sound or just like phrases that I thought sounded like they were meaningful. I mean, it is dark inside God's fist. Like, sure. Is that some brilliant fucking, the way that it's intended to be, like, the artifice of it is everything I'm saying, like, with the letters. Okay, God, dark, you have those D's come back, inside and fist kind of rhyme, the SIIS and fist, and then the T and the D kind of rhyme a little bit. Inside God, that kind of, it and fist kind of, like, there's a tightness in that phrase. That's what I liked about it. The way everything kind of, like, ties together with everything else. It feels, that's the form, that's the rhyme scheme. It's all self-sufficient. It's boxed in. I mean, it's such a small phrase. It's such compartmentalized. And it's not, I mean, it's not related really to the next phrase or the phrase after that. I mean, they sound like they could be balsa wood, lingonberry, yellow AA batteries. Does that have anything to fucking do with this? I don't know. This is the Failure Academy. It's dark inside God's fist. That's IKEA. That's lingonberry. It's like fucking wild strawberries. It's like a Bergman. IKEA's a Bergman film. It's the Failure Academy. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. I mean, does that have anything to fucking do with I mean, that goes back to the Academy thing. And I don't know. TED Talk, that could be. I mean, I think of the phrase, the Academy of the Future is opening its doors. That's an Ashbury thing, but a lot of poets around St. Mark's Church have used it for this purpose or that purpose. So that's sort of what the title is, sort of the Academy of the Future, the Failure Academy. It's kind of a, you know, resembles somewhat. And then, so thank you for coming to my TED Talk. I mean, TED, that could be any number of TEDs. And it's just a way to wrap the poem up. I mean, it was just that day. It was like, okay, I was high, and I thought that phrase was kind of funny. And it's, like I said, it's a familiar TED Talk also, though, being like this lecture, this public lecture. It's like a PowerPoint in a way I don't really like, and it's sort of like, I don't know, it feels like some kind of business conference. Maybe I'll do 2 hours. I'll do 2 hours. I knew this was going to happen. I'll do 2 hours. I have to do 2 hours. And so, like, my live streams feel kind of like TED Talks in a certain way. Maybe I'm going to zoom in one more time. Just to refresh the eye. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I need. So we did a second take, right? So we did the first take. And it was pretty good from start to finish. Like I said, I wasn't high. I just had a little bit of residual kind of THC or something, so I felt like good, you know? I wasn't like laughy and weird and overly paranoid or anything. I was just kind of like, and that was my goal, to just like get like kind of in a good. And so I did. The first take was pretty good, I thought, you know. Even though music came in sort of, I'd say, maybe during like my last piece, I think. I don't think it was over that much of what I was reading. And whatever, who cares? It doesn't bother me, really. I don't know if anybody's going to watch it. Everybody hates me. I don't even know if I can watch it. I appreciate him doing it. I'm glad to have it as part of my, you know, experience, for sure. So then we did another take with, we switched the camera angle, and I've done this angle where there's that awesome seal in the parish hall with the angels on it. Don's like, we'll shoot these angels or whatever the hell they are. And I've used it in the background of stuff. And so I read, the thing is, the light wasn't as good. The light away from the windows was kind of gray and shadowy. And just like, I could tell that like, it definitely wasn't as good as the first shot. You know, we should have just did 2 fucking shots like that. But, you know, I had the same idea, and I shot the angel thing, and who knows? I don't know. But my second reading was not quite as good. I think because just like I kind of realized that like the setup, I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't have backed off. I didn't really. It wasn't bad. I don't really remember it, to be honest, as much. Who knows? With this shit, you never know. Something that can feel good maybe doesn't look right, and vice versa. So, you know, I defer to him on. He said it'd be about a week. He says he's really into editing. I was asking him about that a little bit. He uses iMovie. I don't expect there will be a lot of editing with this, but hopefully he just keeps the whole thing, because I kind of pre-edit. There's nothing bad. I think it's one of those things where it's like, the more you listen to it, the more you kind of hear what's going on. I don't know. I'm not like wowing people with my I don't know. It's more just about the kind of aleatory authenticity of the way that all of the stuff is coming at you, and also how that builds through the idea that this book is like one long work of 3 months, and it's taking you through that. So it's trying to be a autofiction novel, political commentary pamphlet, amateur history tour guide, but also just diary, haiku, travel poem, New York school. The other thing that is fucking, certain slant of sunlight in the later Ted Berrigan poems, those postcard poems, occasional poems, and the Paul Blackburn journals, of course. Stacy Samazik's journals, sort of after those, in a way. Journal of Ugly Sights, or A Year from Today, are both really good examples of calendar kind of journal pieces that are very similar in certain ways to what I'm doing. This style was a little more in vogue at the Poetry Project anyway, a few years ago. And so I'm sort of coming out of a lot of that stuff rather than, I don't know. That's where my own reading and whatnot has taken me. So, how much longer do we have? 4 more minutes. Okay, I should talk about the reading and just sort of... So, yeah, we did a second take. I couldn't tell if the Poetry Project people were, like, not cool with it. Because, like I said, it wasn't really my idea, and I wasn't trying to break the rules or anything. He set it up. Not that I'm trying to, like, put the blame on him or anything, but, like, I didn't really know what the intention was, and it was harmless. There was no one around. There was no disturbance of any kind. We were in and out real fast. It was 20 minutes, 25 minutes maybe. And, I certainly wasn't trying to, like, go around anybody or anything. It was just, like, that was the way it happened, and, I don't know. I mean, what, I hope that, things, I mean, that was, the writer tonight just had this amazing piece about, it was, not like utopic, but like the revolution, but it, like, not in a naive way or stupid, like, rah-rah political way, just about, like, truckers driving their supply trucks, through the barricades, and, groceries are free, and, just like all these amazing, amazing ways that it should work and would work. I don't know. To be honest, like, the way the writer was speaking about it was like the 1968 in France. There was some line about 1968 was all they talked about for the rest of their lives, and how last summer was going to be like that. Like, last summer was such, like, an unbelievable... The way the writer described it was like just this, after all the isolation, last summer was like connecting with friends and socializing, and this explosion of just, like, the revolution, the protest energy, and, like, I mean, I didn't go anywhere because of the fucking virus. I didn't trust the people I was around. Partially, I just didn't have a way to get anywhere. I didn't have a car. I was smoking weed all the time. And just kind of just trying to survive. So, I don't know. I missed that entire moment. I mean, for me, I was inside watching fucking YouTube probably, you know. But man, it was really an incredible reading. So yeah, I don't know. I did my two things. Then I filmed the reading. It was beautiful. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I really need to. There wasn't really much going on. I don't know. I've been getting the vibe from people that like I've kind of turned. Like I don't know. I just get the vibe from people that like they don't want to talk to me. Like they think that I'm like I don't know. I'm just getting kind of the cold shoulder from people. And I'm not really sure why per se. I'm not sure what would have changed, especially after the pandemic. Like I'm not necessarily tonight, but just in general, I'm just finding like people like surprisingly like not warm or like any more outgoing or giving than they were before for the most part. I find people are just as like even worse, to be honest. There's like it seems like there's a lot more petty. And I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Maybe I was just reading that into it, but I don't know. I'm just getting the vibe from people that like I'm not liked or I'm not wanted or something. I don't know. That's why it was so great to be able to do this and to be invited to do this because I don't know. Like always with this stuff, anytime you put yourself on the line and do gigs and like at least for me, try to put yourself out there. There's a lot of ups and downs. You have triumphs and you have shitty days. Huge emotional losses, ego blows, other people getting ahead of you, losing, failing, pain. So to be invited to do this and to just have it go well. I mean, it was such a special magic. It felt totally magic, totally religious. I mean, this is why I'm here. This is why I came back, to live the motherfucker, to live the dream and to actually do it. And that's what I'm doing. That's what I did. That's what I'm going to do tomorrow. That's what I'm going to do after the day after that. It's all happening finally. So that's my 2 cents. I'm not even sure did I cover everything I need to cover, more or less. We'll talk soon. That's the field report, Bloomsday, AD 2021, New York year 0.